Thank you. So good evening and thank you for joining us. This is the District of Sechelt regular council meeting for Wednesday, June 17th, and it is 7 p.m. We have members of the public joining us via the Zoom online meeting platform, some from computers and some by phone. And the process will be the same for the meeting. For regular questions, we will entertain those at the end. However, this is also going to be our annual meeting where we will be considering our annual report. And at that time, we will open it to questions and comments from the community. So we have an agenda in front of us. Are there any declarations of conflict? Councillor Rowe.
I am going to declare a conflict of interest on items 8.1 and 10.1 due to the fact that I am an employee of Vancouver Coastal Health.
Thank you. Any others? All right, so we'll look for, now we have an amended agenda. Before I ask for adoption, we have an amended agenda. We have a few things added. We added in the comments from the information meeting from Trellis. And we added in an item to council correspondence, and we removed the closed session portion. We are not having a closed meeting following this meeting. So does everybody have the amended agenda in front of them? All right, so I'll look for a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Thank you. We have no appointments and delegations, but we do have a proclamation. So, Elder Abuse Awareness Day, June 15th, 2020. So whereas seniors of the District of Sechelt are valued members of society, conveying a lot of experience and wisdom in our community and deserve to live with dignity and respect, it is our collective responsibility to ensure they live safely and fully in a community that cares about them. And whereas victims of elder abuse are parents, grandparents, neighbors, and friends, elder abuse is not limited by race, gender, culture, and circumstances. And whether physical, emotional, or financial, elder abuse takes an unacceptable toll on individuals and families. And whereas seniors who experience abuse or neglect face a heightened risk of health-related complications, and financial abuse can rob our seniors of the security they have built over a lifetime, tragically, many older adults suffer in silence, burdened by fear, shame, or impairments that prevent them from speaking out about abuse. And whereas preventing abuse of older adults will improve the quality of life for all seniors and allow them to live as independently as possible and serve as leaders, mentors, volunteers, and important and active members of this community, contributing to the vibrancy of the District of Sechelt. Now, therefore, I, Darnelda Seegers, on behalf of the District of Sechelt, do hereby proclaim that June 15, 2020 shall be known as Elder Abuse Awareness Day in the District of Sechelt. And we have joining us tonight, Vicki Dobbin, who would like to speak to this. Welcome, Vicki.
Oh, thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine.
Great. So I want to thank you very much for your acknowledgement of World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, and therefore recognizing that elder abuse and neglect is a problem that really needs the whole community to solve. My role is coordinator of the Sunshine Coast Community Response Network, and we're a group that includes the mental health and home care services of Vancouver Coastal Health, programs at Sunshine Coast Community Services, the RCMP, community living, and interested community volunteers. So as a group, our goal is to prevent the abuse and neglect of vulnerable adults through both public education and ensuring that there is a coordinated response to situations of abuse and neglect. So our network does include these very skilled and dedicated responders in our community, but we also need community members to ensure that there is a safety net by bringing situations of abuse and neglect to light. Because elder abuse is often invisible, and so we all have a role to play by keeping our eyes and ears open. And I want to add that the COVID-19 crisis has added to the dynamics and stresses that cause abuse and has increased the isolation that makes seniors more vulnerable. So in closing, I just want to say that our community has really shown its caring in the past, and now even more so through the COVID-19 crisis. And I want to thank the district for its support of the Sunshine Coast Together Resilient Neighborhood Project, because its aim is to connect people on the neighborhood level and reduce isolation, so it can be part of a safety net. Also, the Resource Center is doing great work following up on their report of the isolation of older adults. And of course, the Seniors Planning Table has had this concern of elder abuse on its action plan from its beginning. And then our group, the Sunshine Coast Community Response Network, has just published a handbook for people who are in regular contact with older adults called Recognizing and Responding to the Abuse and Neglect of Vulnerable Adults. So we're launching that next Thursday, the 25th, and it'll be available for distribution. So lastly, I just wanted to say there'll be more information and contact information in a Coast Reporter article that's coming out this Friday. So you can learn more there and have some contact information. So thank you again.
Thank you. So you've answered the question that I had. If we did, come across a situation or become aware of a situation, who would we contact? And what you're saying is that information will be in the paper.
It will. Yeah, there is a general information line, and locally our designated responders are Vancouver Coastal Health Mental Health and Addiction Services and Vancouver Coastal Health Home and Community Care. So those, they'll be listed in the article.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And thank you for being here. So we're going to move on to item 5.1 in our agenda, adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting of June 3rd. I'd like to look for a motion to adopt. Moved, seconded. Any errors or omissions? So all those in favor? Thank you. And any business arising from the minutes? Thank you. All right, move on to committee, commission minutes and reports. Item 7.1, Advisory Planning Commission meeting minutes of June 2nd, 2020 for receipt. Someone like to move receipt? Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. And we are moving into item 8.1, and Councillor Rowe is going to be moved out of the meeting. She will not be able to hear or see us or take part in any of the discussion, and we will bring her back in for item 10.2. So Jennifer, we'll move. Yeah, Councillor Rowe's gone. Thank you.
Your Worship, just to note, I know it was noted at the very beginning of the meeting, but now Councillor Rowe's leaving, just to note that it is because of a conflict of interest that she declared earlier.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So item 10.1, sorry, yes, item 10.1, let me get there. No, 8.1, sorry, 8.1A. This is Trellis rezoning application, Silverstone Long-Term Care Home, OCP Amendment Bylaw number 492-26-2020, and Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 25-303-2020, West Seashell, Derby Road at Cowrie Street. First, a motion to receive the report. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Thank you. And we'll turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll speak briefly to the report. We've got both the OCP Amendment Bylaw and the Zoning Amendment Bylaw presented here for consideration of second reading. All the referral comments have been summarized in the report, and a number of them have been attached as the original letters. So the referral period is all complete. The applicant held a public information meeting, and the report has been attached as a late item for that. Myself and Andrew Allen and a few other staff, and I think many council members also participated in that public information meeting that was held via Zoom, similar to what Sunshine Coast Community Services had done. And again, it was well run. I think we had over 100 people participating. So the applicant provided their summary report and all the public comments that they and we have received collectively so far. So that will be available on the district website moving forward, as well as other means. I wanted to note, just because it's come up in a couple comments around the zoning itself, the proposed zone for the community care facility use, it wouldn't restrict the operational model of the zone. So the zoning itself, we're regulating the use, not the user. So the community care facility as a use is open to any model, whether it's public, private, co-op, whatever the operational model is. The zoning itself doesn't restrict that aspect. We're just focused on the use itself, not the user. And we've also got a number of conditions of rezoning that are presented for endorsement by council, and those will be refined as we go on. There's a few milestones for the applicant to meet, and otherwise we're ready for second reading, and then we'll be looking at the organization and format of the public hearing moving forward. So if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions by council? No questions. Councillor McLean.
Yeah, I just have a question about the IN1 zone. So this zone will essentially be created just for this application. Is there a possibility of using it for any other lots on the district of Seashell, or is it really intended for just this one lot? Because it does seem quite prescriptive.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, some of the elements of the zone could be adapted elsewhere. I mean, I guess in terms of the permitted uses are fairly general. But yes, there are other aspects that are tied to the specific dimensions of the property being created, but it could be easily adapted to another site in future for another similar facility.
You're on mute.
Yes, yes, thank you. Some of the comments that I read in the material that came in, and some of them that from the public information meeting, are talking about the fact that, you know, this area was not designed for, you know, in the OCP for one of these facilities. But in fact, if you go back and look at the area plan, this type of facility has always been anticipated in this area, just at a slightly different position. And so what we're doing with the OCP amendment is just shifting it from the location where it was anticipated at the time when the area plan is done. Is that correct?
Yes, the civic, institutional, and utilities land use designation in the OCP covers a number of different things, and it's been in place since an amendment for a number of years. And all this proposed OCP amendment is doing is really just moving it in space from one location to another without adjusting any other aspects. So the rezoning has been contemplated, the use has been contemplated for a while in the OCP.
Okay. Any other questions by council? Councillor McLean.
Yeah, the 10-meter wide buffer, the no build covenant. Is there a possibility to convert that into park once the rest of the development moves forward, or yeah, I'll leave it there.
The covenants are really meant to serve as an indicator for, you know, when we're dealing with future rezoning applications for lands around the area, that more focus needs to be provided regarding landscaping and buffering in the immediate area around the community care facility site. So the 10-meter just establishes that threshold where a rezoning application involving land in that area needs to take more particular care with landscaping. It doesn't mean that there's always going to be a 10-meter buffer there. I mean, it would be part of the rezoning application in future for us to look in more detail at that. And is 10 meters necessary? Could we go down to 5 meters? Would there be trails there? Maybe it wouldn't necessarily be park. That's not the intent of these covenants. It's more around providing the opportunity to address more specific buffering and landscaping requirements without the risk of suddenly the land being rezoned and now you have 1.5 meter side yard setbacks right up against a parking area or a loading bay. So it's serving as a point for future rezoning applications to say, hey, we need to pay more attention to these areas, whether or not it remains as 10 meters or something different.
All right, any further questions? So there are a number of recommendations put forward on pages 20 and 21. How would council like to proceed? Councillor McLean.
Oh, I got one more question.
Okay, go ahead.
The SDRD recommendation to provide a transit stop, is that on-site or off-site? And if it's on-site, is it reflected on the diagram provided, or are we going to receive an updated site plan?
Yeah, we would definitely see an updated site plan and have it sort of incorporated into the landscaping plan. I would see, for now, it probably being a bus pullout right off of Derby Road. Now that might change as the applicant works with the SCRD's transit division to kind of nail down what their requirements are. So I don't anticipate it coming into the property. It would more be, on the road along Derby and providing the space for it there.
Councillor McLean.
No, I think I got it figured out.
Okay.
That'll do me.
I actually mentioned that at the regional district too, because the recommendation came forward there, and they're saying they wanted a bus stop basically at the facility, but given where it is, the bus would come up to the corner, and that's kind of kitty corner from that. So I don't know how they would actually get it in front. So I see what your question is. Any other questions by council? All right, how would you like to proceed with the recommendations in front of us? Councillor Todd.
Given that we had a 160-page late edition for this particular item, I'd actually like to defer it to the next council meeting.
Okay, is there a seconder for deferral? There's a seconder, okay. No discussion on that? All those in favor of deferral? So 3, 4, any opposed? 3 opposed, so that is defeated. Tie vote is defeated. So it is not deferred. I'd entertain another motion. Councillor McLean.
Well, it's a good thing I spent a couple hours reading all those documents this morning. I will move recommendation 2 through 7. And unfortunately, I'm not going to read it out today.
Okay. Recommendations 2 through 7, and Councillor Kuster, is that seconding? Thank you. Any further discussion on these recommendations? So this is basically recommending we give it second reading to both the official community plan, the zoning amendment, and authorize staff to schedule a public hearing, and then lays out the conditions prior to third reading and adoption. So we have recommendations 2 through 7 on the floor. All those in favor? Thank you. All right. So we'll move to the actual bylaw. This is item 8.1B on page 212. District of Sechelt bylaw number 492-26-2020 Silverstone. Being a bylaw to amend District of Sechelt official community plan bylaw number 492-2010. And I would look for someone to move second reading. Moved, seconded, all in favor. Thank you. All right, and we'll move on to item 10.1.
There's another bylaw to be read.
Sorry, yes, you're right. Thank you. Let's move back to 8.1C. Thank you, Jen. This is on page 215. So the first was the official community plan bylaw. This is the zoning bylaw. So this is District of Sechelt bylaw number 25-303-2020 for Silverstone, being a bylaw to amend District of Sechelt zoning bylaw number 25-1987. And I'd look for a second reading. Moved, seconded, all in favor. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jen.
Can I just jump in with a quick question?
Yes, you can.
To staff, do we have an expected date for the public hearing? And do we have an expected format?
We don't have an expected date yet, and we're still finalizing the format. But we have a good idea of some of the general parameters of what it'll look like.
And this is in response to the province actually coming out and saying that given the current circumstances, and this is fairly recently, it's not too long ago that they actually came out and said that we could actually hold public hearings electronically. Regional District will be doing their first public hearing on the 30th of this month. And we're actually having training next week on how to do that because I'm the vice chair. Councillor Top.
Yeah, and just further to the regional district holding the first electronic public hearing here on the coast, just a thought for our staff to reach out to them to see if we can try and synchronize the way the public hearings are done here on the coast a bit.
Good point. Mr. Allen.
Yeah, thank you, and good point, Councillor Toss. Perhaps we'll suggest we have spoken with regional district staff already, and certainly we'll be watching how this public hearing unfolds, and we'll continue to talk with them to best manage our options under the present scenario. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McLean.
How much notice can people expect before the public hearing?
I mean, the Local Government Act spells out the traditional notice period based on newspaper ads and mail outs. But given the current situation, we'll probably aim to be provide more advanced notice than would normally be required by default, given the likely parameters of the meeting. If it's going to be held similar to the SCRD via Zoom or something, we'll definitely make sure there's sufficient advance notice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Allen, did you have some more comments?
Thank you. I will note that not only will we give more than the required 2 weeks notice, we'll give more. The ministerial order also requires that we clearly explain the format of the public hearing and how folks can participate. So we will go to great lengths to ensure that it's clear the format and how one can participate and either provide comment in advance or register to speak at the hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. And just as with every other public hearing that we have, people who want to can submit written comments and they will be distributed to council as well. They have to be into us before the end of the public hearing. So if they don't have an electronic way to connect, if that's the way we do this, they can write out their comments, drop them off in our mail slot, and we will get those. Have to be in before the end of the public hearing, and they'll be included. All right. So we'll move on to next item, 10.1. This is official community plan consultation for bylaw. Consultation for bylaw number 492-26-2020, Silverstone long-term care home. And let's see. So this is the District of Sechelt official community plan bylaw amendment, bylaw number 492-26-2020, Silverstone, was introduced and received first reading. That was the OCP amendment. I'm going to turn over to staff and explain what we're doing here. How's that?
Sure.
And then we'll go through this.
Yeah, thank you. An additional 10 recommendations to follow up on the previous 7 recommendations. So
Yes.
I thank you for your indulgence. We are introducing an enhanced process here, and you hear some about it in this report as it relates to Trellis Silverstone specifically, and you hear a little bit more in the next report about official community plan amendments and referrals generally. So it comes to the Local Government Act, Section 475 of the Local Government Act, which provides detail for council to consider respecting engagement during OCP review, repeal, or amendment. So this particular section does not distinguish between building an entire new OCP or, in this case, taking a land use polygon and shifting it some to the west. It's simply if you're creating OCP policy, there is a legislative consideration for referrals. And it explicitly says that this is beyond the public hearing. This type of referral, what's called early and ongoing engagement, does not replace a public hearing. It's in addition to, but it's different for official community plans that have this section whereas zoning amendments, subdivisions, etc., do not have a legislative process. There remains value in referring other types of applications, but they don't have the same legislative requirements. So what we're looking for here is to formalize the referral process that we've been through for this particular application as we move towards the public hearing. So back in March, referrals were sent to a number of agencies, community groups, government organizations. Those responses were summarized in the previous reports. But and staff recommend that council review those submissions described in the previous report and essentially accept the comments and now formally conclude this portion of the engagement period for this application. So while the public information summary was received as a late agenda item, it still allows continual review of this document all the way through to decision-making process. So I do apologize for that being late. That said, there's not a decision that's required on it tonight. But what we're saying is we have this package of information ranging from SCRD, Sea Shelf Nation, Vancouver Coastal Health, etc., public information meeting, and recommending that council receive it, review it, and confirm that the information has been received and council is prepared to take the next step in the process, which is moving towards public hearing. And we feel that doing this not only brings us into compliance with the Local Government Act, but it also provides a clear record of pre-public hearing engagement, which can assist this process to help ultimately create a fair and reasonable decision for council. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions by council? This is a new step that's been introduced. Councillor McLean.
So looking to the list of organizations on recommendation 5, one that I noticed is missing is community associations, in particularly the West Sea Shelf Community Association. Can staff speak to that at all? Why that may not be on there?
Mr. Allen?
Sure. I mean, in this particular case, we wanted to highlight the governmental and regulatory and service provider agencies. That said, it is valuable to note that Advisory Planning Commission provided comments, West Sea Shelf Community Association, West Porpoise Bay, or pardon me, East Porpoise Bay, Tilikum Bay. So upon reflection, it might be prudent to add those organizations as well, or community groups, to acknowledge and receipt of all comments. Thank you.
Okay, so would we, in that case, then add them in on these recommendations at this point?
For the purpose of clear record keeping, I would suggest that that would be a good amendment to make.
Okay. Any other questions on the process we're looking at here? All right, any recommendations that council would like to make? Councillor McLean. And you're still muted.
Yes, I am.
Try again. Yes.
I got to start with recommendation 5, and then we'll jump around a little bit, just because I think we need to play with that one a little bit. So I will move recommendation 5, and then I'll make an amendment after I move it.
Well, you could move it with the changes.
Yeah, I guess I could. Okay. Move recommendation 5 with the addition of community associations as number 511.
Okay. And it's seconded. Okay.
And then just one, sorry, I should have done this at the same time. Number 8 appears to have a typo. BC Hydro / BC Transmission C. Is that commission?
Corporation.
Corporation?
Should it say corporation then, Mr. Allen? That's 5, 8. Okay, and you're muted as well.
I had an additional window open. I was just doing a quick search online. BC Hydro Corporation will be fine.
BC Hydro Corporation rather than BC
Sure.
Hydro slash, okay, so BC Hydro Corporation, okay. All right, any other additions to number 5? So we've got that on the floor for recommendation number 5. All those in favor? Thank you. So we still have 1 through 4 and 6 through 10. Councillor Toth.
I will move 1 through 4 and 6 through 10, and no, I'm not going to read them all.
Okay.
Tonight.
All right. Is there a seconder for that? Seconded? Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Thank you. So that is item 10.1. So we can invite Councillor Rowe back in for item 10.2. Welcome back, Councillor Rowe. Item 10.2, this is official community plan consultation policy 3.3.7. First, a motion to receive the report. Moved and seconded, all in favor? We see that again, because I need enough voting to accept it. Thank you. Okay, back over to you, Mr. Allen.
Thank you. And of course, naturally, this policy report builds upon the previous report. It does provide context for both the previous report and future official community plan amendment, development, or repeal. And essentially what this is doing is, again, building upon Local Government Act requirements where it's council that is seeking advice. It's not necessarily meant to be staff to staff with other organizations. It's meant to be council to elected officials where applicable. In the case of, say, Sechelt Nation or Sunshine Coast Regional District. In some cases, that might not be a straight line. In some cases, if it's council to Sechelt Fire Department, it's elected officials to technical staff. But nonetheless, the point is with Section 475 of the Local Government Act is council is turning its mind specifically to who it wishes to consult with. So in some cases, we might have in the past have had a recommendation saying, and that staff consult with relevant agencies. What this does, in a staff report, we can recommend who we believe to be candidates for referral, but ultimately it's council that opens the referral process with a specific resolution. And so again, this builds upon Local Government Act and provides for a clear, consistent, and expected process. So Section 475 of the Local Government Act does have 2 parts. The first part is a little bit more general, refers to persons, organizations, and authorities. And it simply doesn't mention advisory planning commissions or community associations or whatnot, because each municipality will have a different suite of options there, but it does include general public. Whereas 475 number 2 is where it gets a little more specific, where it talks about consulting with the regional district or adjacent municipality, First Nations, school boards, etc. And so the policy suggests moving forward with both of those types of referrals. So it solidifies the process and turns the engagement over to the council, and staff supports this by sending the referrals to the selected agencies. Again, it doesn't, as I think I've noted, it doesn't distinguish between a small amendment like changing the applicability of development permit number 8, which we saw 2 weeks ago, versus recreating an entire OCP. It's just basically the premise is council is looking to change an OCP, and there should be thought behind who it wishes to engage with, opening up that engagement process, identifying a time period, receiving the comments, and then closing the engagement process. And we believe that this creates this clear process, which links to the council strategic plan respecting improving governance and communication. I feel this is the right step or a good step in the right direction for clarity and consistency. Thank you.
Councillor Toth.
I noticed in the staff report, the staff cover, it mentions business associations, but I don't see them when I go through the actual policy. Are they missing? Are they intended to be lumped in with community associations? Just looking for some clarification there.
I would say they're intended to be consistent with 475-1, which speaks to persons, organizations, and authorities. Community associations and business groups do have a tendency to change over time, change names, etc., as opposed to, say, Seychelles Nation, Sunshine Coast Regional District, which are a little bit more long-term. So we keep that a little bit more general, respecting authorities or organizations.
Councillor
Okay.
Charles?
I guess just
Follow-up?
in the past, the referrals have had specifically, and just having seen referrals from the other side of the table, they very specifically have, I'm thinking Seychelles Downtown Business Association specifically, but they've got the little checkbox at the bottom of the form to indicate that they have been included in this. And looking at the referral decision-making matrix, item number 5, and the agencies and acronyms, item number 4, on page 230 of our amended agenda, I just don't see that any business associations have been named. And so if they're grouped in with the community associations, that's fine. I just wanted to clarify that was the intent.
Right. And what I should have said is that this policy does not intend on increasing nor decreasing the amount of consultation that we do. It's just to provide some consistency. So when we're doing a staff report and it's about an OCP amendment in West Seychelles, we would add West Seychelles Community Association to the recommended list of referral agents. If it's an OCP amendment or that we believe and council believes could impact the entire district, then we would potentially recommend all community associations. Similarly, if it's a downtown project, then there might be specifically a request to go to, say, Seychelles Downtown Business Association, as opposed to if the project relates to something on Field Road in Wilson Creek. So it still allows for that judgment call to make specific decisions and recommendations on each account. And if I may, the one further piece, so there's the policy, and then behind the policy is the procedure. And that's just meant to show council how we handle other types of referrals. For example, as I mentioned earlier, subdivisions don't have a statutory referral as noted in the Local Government Act the same way, but it's still mandatory and beneficial for us at the staff level to consult with various agencies, service providers, SERD, etc. So there's a procedure attached, and that's just to show how we conduct our regular business.
So what I'm hearing you say in all of this is we do these processes. They haven't actually ever formally been written down to say, this is what we do. And what you're doing here is putting a structure around it so that if staff want to look at it, if the community wants to look at it, if anybody wants to say, what do we do? Here it is in writing, rather than having to kind of say, well, we follow the Local Government Act.
I would say yes, that's correct. And in part, to explicitly follow the Local Government Act, we will now be seeking council resolution to open and close engagement processes respecting OCP development.
Okay.
So it's both of those.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any further questions? Councillor McLean.
Yeah, less of a question, more of a comment. I think this is a good thing that we are specifying our structure and our processes a little bit more. But by doing that, I think it can create some worry from the community associations. I think we've heard from at least one already in our emails that they want some time to really digest this before it fully comes into effect. So I'd really like to see if we could take the time, reach out to the community associations, reach out to the Seychelles Community Association Forum staff, talk to them a little bit and walk with them through this. So they really have a good understanding of what we're trying to do, because this could impact one of their largest functions, which is providing referrals. So I just want to get them all fully on side before we move forward with this.
Okay. Any comments? Mr. Allen, do you have any comments to that?
No specific comments. I'm happy to speak with community associations, other than to summarize that the intent here is not to reduce the amount of consultation, it's just simply to organize it. But if there are community associations who would like to discuss it further, then I'm fine with that.
Councillor Toth?
I agree with Councillor McLean. I have to say it. Councillor McLean, are you looking to refer our referral policy out to the community associations? Because I think it's a good idea. Because it may not be our intent, but that may be the way that they see it, as they may see us as trying to cut them out of the process, and that's not the case. So I'm happy to. I don't know. There's no option here for it. Oh, Councillor McLean,
Yeah.
sorry.
Make it up. Councillor McLean?
I have something prepared, so rather than Councillor Todd making something up, I had something. There it is. So I'm going to make a motion that Council refer this report back to staff until such time a workshop can be held with the Sechelt Community Association Forum staff on referral best practices and this new policy.
Okay, is there a seconder? Seconded? So this, could we refer to official community plan consultation policy 3.3.7 inside of that, right? And staff can put that in. Okay. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor? Oh, did you want to make a comment? Sorry,
Yeah,
Councillor
just
McLean?
real quick one. Idea that the mayor has thrown around a couple of times is just working with community associations about what kind of content they should be providing in referrals. So I think we can use this as an opportunity to do a little bit of that too. So to help them through the planning process in a general sense.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? So we have a recommendation to refer this policy to basically a workshop with staff and then bring it back to council after they've had an opportunity to comment on it, is kind of the general idea behind your motion, I believe.
Yeah, the exact wording is refer to staff until we have the workshop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. All right. All those in favor? Thank you. All right, move on to item 10.3. This is extension of Sechelt Business Watch program. First, a motion to receive the report. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Thank you. And I guess I need to speak to this one. I think most of the information is laid out in the report. So this program came about not just here, but throughout the province. It was actually initiated in Gibsons, the town of Gibsons. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit and businesses shut down, there was a concern about empty streets. And I can remember Councillor Toth telling me one day he saw somebody golfing down Cowrie. I wish you would have taken a picture. I would have loved that picture. Anyway, there was a concern in Gibsons, and they spearheaded this program, did the background work with the Municipal Insurance Association, etc., to lay out the parameters around this. And then we in Sechelt took this on as well and implemented a Sechelt Business Watch program. The initial funding for this program in Gibsons and in Sechelt and in other communities throughout the province was actually paid for by the Emergency Operations Center through the Provincial Emergency Operations Center, 2 hours to this program. They funded it for 10 weeks. Then the Downtown Business Association stepped up and put $500 in. And we've had a couple of meetings since then, as I referenced in the report. And the RCMP were involved in those meetings as well. Part of it is we don't know what crime it deters. We know that they have found some situations that they've referred to the RCMP, but we don't know what it has deterred. Yes, these businesses are now, some of them are back up and running. They have insurance, but in this case, we're looking at about $9,000 to cover off with volunteers this program from now till November 1st. One of the pieces I didn't mention in here was that last year, all municipalities throughout BC and Canada and other places saw an influx of homeless people into our community. We don't know what that's going to look like this year. Last year, it kind of caught us off guard, and we were reacting to a lot of the situations that we encountered. We're also looking at having this in place to deal with that this season, given it may arise again, and we don't know. So the reason we are looking at having some staff time in here is that occasionally staff assist with some of the actual technology and the scheduling pieces behind the scenes. But otherwise, it's run by the community, by volunteers, and we basically pay them gas card. We give them gas cards to cover their mileage. That's it. That's our cost. It is a district program, and we do need to be involved, because unless we're involved, they are not covered under Municipal Insurance Association. So by us actually having, basically sponsoring the program like this, they are covered should something happen to them. So I'm open to any questions. Councillor McLean and Councillor Scott.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we have any kind of metrics on this at all. I know it's hard to recognize how much crime we're preventing, but do we know how often people are going out? Have we measured anything in this program so far that we can evaluate it on as we are at this juncture?
As you said, deterrence, we have no idea. We have purposely not indicated how often. I mean, I could share that with council, but we don't want to share that publicly because we don't go every night, but we don't want the information out as to which nights we do go out. We don't want, and there's going to be some changing up about some of that as well over the next while. So offline, I can share that with you. I will not share that information publicly. And it was actually written in the report, and I requested it be taken out, because we didn't want to advertise when we were out and when we weren't out. So, Councillor Scott.
Just curious what the balance is in that public safety reserve. Anybody know?
I don't know if Mr. Curry does. I think I talked, Mr. Curry, do you have the number?
Yes, I do. The balance is $456,000 currently.
Okay, Councillor Kuster and then Councillor Todd. Sorry, yeah, Councillor Kuster.
I just had a question. What was the date? Like, why did you decide November? Like, what was the reasoning for that time frame? Considering for 10 weeks, why are we taking it till November? Businesses are opening, suspect that more will be opening. Just what's the reasoning behind that?
Basically, end of the summer tourism season. It's been spreading into October now. So we're just looking at going to the end of that season and then wrap it up. And at that point, do an evaluation and see whether or not it is even something we want to continue next year. We wouldn't continue it through the winter, but we don't know. We don't know how long it's going to take for everything to open up and kind of be back to normal and have things happening. So it was random. I mean, would you want to make it less? Definitely. We could change the date. I'm not tied to the date. Okay, Councillor Todd?
Yeah, I'm opposed to extending this program. As a business owner, I pay for security at my premises, and I know that the STBA tried to recruit businesses to pay for some security, and I know that there were, trying times, businesses weren't open, no revenue to pay for security. Now that we've got businesses reopening, the majority of our businesses are open again now. I see this as basically a form of block watch or citizens on patrol, if you will. To extend this program until November is just going to probably result in another extension or, renewing it next year or what have you. And soon enough, we've picked up another service that's been downloaded on us by higher jurisdictions. We pay for our CMP here. We pay a lot for our CMP here. There was discussion at one point about trying to restart the citizens policing initiatives through the RCMP. I think that this is something that's better suited within the RCMP and their fairly substantial budget.
Any other questions? Councillor McLean?
So to respond to Councillor Toth's comment, I think this is pretty good value. At cost of $9,500. We can't run an RCMP program for that. I could do the math on how much of an RCMP officer that pays. It's almost nothing. They're quite expensive, like you said. So I did have concerns about this program. I have concerns about how we're measuring it. I also have concerns about how these people are trained. But at the end of the day, it does provide great value. I think it's really hard to run a program for $10,000 of any sort. So the fact that we can get something out the door, out there every week, is pretty good.
So I will say that the people who oversee the program in the community are retired RCMP officers. And so part of what they do inside of the training is ensure that everybody knows what they have to do when they go out every night. And if at all possible, they do a ride along, front and back seat. So, they're in the vehicle, but so if they do a ride along, so they learn what they're looking for, and then how to communicate that. So they also communicate back to the RCMP what they've seen. They have access to the RCMP while they're driving around in the evening, should they see something that the RCMP have to respond to. So all of that is in place. And some of that information is in the report because there are policies in there and forms. We have to do criminal record checks, for example. All of that kind of stuff is done. Councillor Rowe.
Hopefully my dog is going to settle for me to speak here. I echo Councillor McLean. I think the RCMP can use all the eyes and ears that can be available for them. And I think this is really good value. And November 1st is actually pretty telling date because my prediction is we'll be into a second wave by then and we won't have to restart this. It'll already be carrying on and hopefully be building volunteers and such. I hear anecdotally that this is something that actually community members enjoy doing, and a few business owners that I've spoken to have really appreciated it. So I think it's good value, and I'm in support.
All right, any other questions or comments? So we have two recommendations. Would anybody like to make the recommendations? Councillor McLean?
I'll read out this one.
Okay.
Recommendation 2, that council approve a temporary extension of the Seashell Business Watch program on up to and including November 1st, 2020. And recommendation 3, that council approve district staff to oversee the Seashell Business Watch program and that overtime be approved to pay out of the Public Safety Reserve Fund, and that council approve up to $9,525 from the Public Safety Reserve to fund operation of the Seashell Business Watch program up to and including November 1st, 2020.
All right, thank you. Is there a seconder for that recommendation? Seconded. And everyone's had a say who wants to have a say? All those in favor? Any opposed? Would you like that recorded? Okay, Councillor Toth would like his recorded, Councillor Kuster not. All right, thank you. Let's move on to item 10.4. So this is our annual report. So what we're going to do is we will put a motion on the floor to receive it, but then we will see if there are any questions or comments from anybody in the gallery. And we'll also have Ms. Rogers speak to it. So is there someone who'd like to move receipt of our annual report? Moved, seconded? All right, Ms. Rogers, up to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't think there's very much to say about the annual report. It was brought to you a couple of weeks ago. It was posted on the district website and there was hard copies available just outside the library. The annual report got a few minor adjustments, but it is largely the same as what you saw a few weeks ago. And it just highlights some of the things that we've done in the last year, from bicycle lanes to going paperless to audits at the WRC, and a couple of new events last year that worked towards revitalizing downtown, which interestingly enough, those two events to revitalize downtown actually originated from the community services position that you brought in last year in order to help market our facilities, which was all about managing our assets a little bit better and providing something back to the community. And then it's snowballing into revitalizing the downtown because it's the same person doing everything. Anyway, so the annual report is highlighting all of the projects that we've done in the last year and lining them up against your strategic goals so that you're able to look at your goals and see what you've accomplished so far and get a better sense of what you'd like to do in the next 2.5 years to continue to work on those goals.
Thank you. So before I come to council, are there any, I'm gonna have Jen check, are there any comments that have come in via email or from the public through you?
We've received nothing.
Okay, and I don't see any questions. I'm gonna point out to those who are in attendance, we have 6 people in attendance. If you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A. I'll go to council with questions or comments, and then I will come back and we'll see if there are any questions in there. So I want to just make a point here before I go to the rest of the council. When this was brought forward to us, Councillor McLean actually made a comment that this is a great opportunity. This report, the way it's been put together, provides us with an opportunity to actually look at our strategic plan and what we've accomplished to date and look at how we're going to direct staff to move some of these initiatives forward going on. So I have talked with the CAO about that, and we are going to look at having some kind of format. Don't know what it looks like yet, but we are probably going to look at doing something like that between now and when staff actually start budgeting process, so that inside of that look at what we've done and where we want to go, we can actually provide some guidance to staff on what we want them to focus on to move some of these items forward. So, Julie, you did a great job in putting that together. Matt, great idea in putting that forward. So thank you for all of that. So any questions or comments from the rest of council? A question, Councillor Scott.
Just a comment. Actually, I really like this report. It was, I like the way it was put together. It's nice and easy to read. I love Matt's idea on this. I was really pleased to read this. Actually, I really.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, so no questions from the gallery. Oh, Councillor Toth, I saw your hand up. No?
It's okay. I was just going to say that we moved and seconded receipt, but we did not actually vote on receipt.
That's right. That's right.
On.
That's right. And that's because we need to see if we have any questions or comments. Because this is part of our annual meeting, the annual report, we need to ensure that we give the community the opportunity to comment. All right, we have no comments. So we have a recommendation on the floor that we receive the attached 2019 annual report. All those in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Rogers. So we're going to move on to reports from councillors. So this is the order you are on my screen. I've got Councillor McLean, Councillor Lamb, Councillor Scott, Councillor Kuster, Toth, and Rowe. So Councillor McLean, you're first.
Okay. The Housing Advisory Committee met last week. We're continuing to work on building an application guide for freestanding rental suites. So we're going to be basing the guide off the Nelson Laneway Housing How-To Guide. So if anyone wants a copy of that to see where we're going, feel free to email me and I can get you a copy of the Nelson one, and hopefully we'll adapt that to create something for Seashells eventually.
All right, Councillor Ladd.
June the 8th, I attended a Scredo meeting, and so they're working with Urban Systems to get an index with regards to industrial commercial properties and the opportunities that they, I guess, allow our community to prosper with. They were going to approach the ferry system to see if they could get a seat on the Ferry Advisory Committee. Also trying to meet with Mark Collins or his advisor from the Ferry Authority. Also, they've joined with Sunshine Coast Business Recovery Center, and they've set up a website. And so they're there to direct business grants and money available. I guess direct businesses to where grants and money are available, and to local programs that offer support for the businesses in the community. And also they mentioned that the SDBA offers free support to put your business on their website. So just another, that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Scott.
Making a report on my end.
All right. Councillor Kuster.
Okay, well, Matt basically touched on the housing meeting. Just want to say it's really great to review some sample documents and just see how some other communities have gone about this. And I think I'm really excited to see how this moves forward. And like I said before, we have a great committee, and it's just exciting to be there and hear different ideas. That's it. Council wise, personally, I've been organizing grad gifts for their grad day at school on the 19th. So each grad, we got spent some of the money that we raised locally buying gifts from local businesses. That was really important to me. So giving back to some of the businesses that supported us. Gave the kids a choice of a few different items they could pick. And then I went around and ordered all of them, and now I'm picking them all up. Their grad days on Friday, so they get to do some little activities like bochi and have lunch. And they've been separated into 3 different groups, so they're keeping their distances. And that's kind of the end for them. Grad is going to be aired on June 24th on the SD46 YouTube channel for all the chat grads at 7. So that will be official grad that I'll get to see my daughter actually graduate. And as far as the kids go, they are also doing a bridge at Botanical Gardens in front of the Learning Center with some of the money as a kind of a legacy gift. And what else do I want to say? I think that's it. I just want to take the opportunity actually to thank all the businesses that donated to the grads. It's a really trying time, and without their support, it couldn't have been done, and we really appreciate it. So on behalf of all the grads and the parents, we appreciate all the small businesses and all the businesses that donated to the grads. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Toth.
I don't have anything to report other than Canada Day parade entry is open, and everybody should sign up to do our drive-by parades. We're doing 3 of them, one sort of through each arm of our community, if you will. And you don't have to be a business to participate in the parade. If you want to just get in your car and decorate it up a little bit and drive through neighborhoods honking, you're welcome to join us. Registration is free, seashelldowntown.com, or shared through Facebook all over the place, including on our website as well at seashell.ca. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe.
Not much to report. I echo Janice's thoughts on the Housing Committee. Matt's doing a great job, and it's a really dynamic committee that we have going on. So I'm really pleased with the progress. The only other thing I've been up to is I went to the Seashell Hospital Foundation AGM yesterday, just to speak from a leadership perspective on how they were able to support us and continue to. We were speaking really around the emergency fund that they put together and how that really enabled us to move forward with planning without too much concern. And I'm just continually, as Janice says, I'm amazed by the generosity of this community and ever so thankful on a daily basis lately. That's it.
Thank you. Iced tea. So Island Coastal Economic Trust is an organization that we on the Sunshine Coast belong to, along with a good portion of Vancouver Island. This organization was provided funding for economic development by the provincial government, and mayors and chairs throughout the province belong to their local economic development organization. So as a member of that, I sit on that board, and then they have the executive. I put my name forward for the executive because we don't have representation, haven't had for 5 years, I guess they said, on the executive from the Sunshine Coast, either north or south. So I reached out to my counterparts up and down the coast here, and they were happy to support me. And so as of July 19th, I believe it is, I will be starting a 2-year term with Iced Tea on their board of directors. I was honored to be able to give a grad speech for the chat grads. So it was early on a Saturday morning because their walk across the stage, etc., was Saturday. And after I gave my speech, will be videotaped and you'll get to see it as part of the grad ceremony. I actually got to hear the valedictorian give her speech. So that was kind of cool. I took part, and I think there were others here as well, took part in the protest march that happened. It was organically grown, right? I know some of you there, I didn't recognize some of the people who were there because you were all wearing face masks and some people were wearing toques and hats, etc. So I'd look at somebody and go, is that who I think it is? I don't know. Anyway, I took part in the protest march. I have to say, for the most part, I think people were keeping their distance. There were a couple of times when I felt a little uncomfortable, and so I'd step out of the group so that I could make sure I had my distance around me. But the number of people that showed up, I think, really blew the organizers away. They never anticipated that they would get that size. I have to commend the RCMP for stepping in and doing the traffic control as they did. It was very well handled. I understand they had about 11 RCMP officers there to make sure that all the people got through safely. And the cars that were stopped were honking in support of the walkers. So it was great to see. Mayor Beamish, Chair Pratt and I had a meeting with BC Ferries, Mark Collins, the CEO, and Brian Anderson, I forget his title, sustainable something rather, and community, or do you know what it is? I've got it written down somewhere.
Strategic planning.
Strategic planning, okay. Strategic planning. So this was, we had set it up in response to the cutbacks in service that had happened for the beginning of June. Just so happened that the day before, a day or two before we actually were having the meeting with them, they reinstated the late night sailing. I wrote up the information on the meeting and actually posted it on my Facebook page, and it's been transferred out. I have not sent it to council. I will forward it on to council for information. Some of the comments that were made were that they are continuing to lose money daily. They're losing $800,000 to $1 million, $800,000 to $1 million a day on the service that they have to provide as per contract. And so what they're looking at, when they're looking at adding additional sailings, they have to ensure that those sailings actually at least break even. What else? their capital, they're still looking to get funding from provincial or federal government to help cover off some of their costs for staffing. What I'd indicated in one of my previous comments with a meeting with them was at the first meeting we had with them, Mark Collins indicated that in 2008, when there was the slowdown in the economy, they saw an 18% decrease in ridership over 6 months. He said in this case, when COVID-19 hit, they had an 80% drop in ridership in 5 days. So, and then they still had to cover off those costs. So there is still conversation going on with the federal government and the provincial government, and we've been having conversations with our MP and MLA to see if there's additional funding that could be provided to BC Ferries to help cover some of that. Because right now what they're doing is they put their capital project on hold because they're needing to use those capital funds to fund the actual operation, day-to-day operations, to meet their contract. So there's still some work going on behind the scenes in that. Hopefully we can, see some movement there. At the regional district, you might actually mention this, Councillor Todd. I was going to talk about the pride photo that we did. So we got together and did a pride photo at the regional district. And then we stood around the parking lot after and talked for about an hour because we haven't seen each other physically since the shutdown in the beginning of March. And it was so nice just to be able to reconnect at that level. We see each other every week, but as we're doing here, it's still not the same. I wanted to mention one other item, and this is for those out there who are running a business or want to find out about business, and also for council. This is an invitation for you as well. There is a business recovery forum being put on, and Councillor Lamb mentioned it. Business Recovery Forum put on by Scredo, Community Futures, a number of other organizations together on the 25th. So that's next week, Thursday. It runs from 8:30 till 11 in the morning. If you can even go to part of that, what they're looking to provide, the first part of the meeting will be asking businesses, what do you need in the next 90 days? So what is it that's going to help you through the next 3 months? And then the next part will look at what will take you further than that. What are you going to look at ongoingly? What kinds of things do you need? Councillor Toth and I will only be able to be there for the first hour because we have regional district meetings that day, but it's open to all of council. It's open to the community. Anybody's welcome to come. And that's my report. So I'm going to go over to Councillor Toth for the STRD report.
I'd totally forgotten the Pride photo opportunity. And it was really interesting because a couple of the directors hadn't been as far as Sechelt since COVID hit. They'd been really staying either at home or the grocery store closest to their house, and that was about it. So they weren't quite ready to venture all the way into Sechelt. But yeah, it was really fun to get together. My report is there. Happy to take any questions on it. Yeah, the board agenda was quite short, as evidenced by my report, but yeah.
Any questions for Councillor Toth on the SCRD report? There will be an update again tomorrow morning at the infrastructure meeting on the water situation. Another presentation tomorrow. Go ahead, Councillor Toth.
Actually, I just wanted to add that the SCRD staff have started putting together water update videos that they're posting on YouTube, and they didn't tell any of the directors about it before they posted the first one. And I actually found it through one of the Facebook community groups, and yeah, looking forward to where those go, and more communication is always good.
Mm-hmm. Tomorrow also we don't have details in the agenda, but I understand TELUS is coming to talk about service on the Sunshine Coast. So don't know a lot about what that is. We'll have more details tomorrow. All right, let's move on to council correspondence. So first, a motion to receive the correspondence. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. And there are 2 items marked for action. First one is with regards to the Sunshine Coast Youth Council. Councillor Kuster.
Yeah, I think just having a daughter who was on a different youth council in Vancouver, I think it's a benefit for our community to have the voice of youth be heard. They have great ideas, and I fully support this option. So that's it. I guess I could make a motion if you wanted, but
Sure, go ahead. Well,
I'll wait to see what anyone else has to say first.
okay, sounds good. Councillor Toth. Sorry, Councillor McLean. Other corner.
Yeah, so I think this is a great idea. I'm just wondering if anyone's able to clarify what support they're actually looking for. What role does the District of Sechelt play in this?
The only thing that I noticed in there was they were looking for $50 per representative to help cover off things like snacks, potentially a Zoom license, etc. And if they can actually meet in person, or some of them meet in person, use of a facility. It's use of one of our, like potentially our community meeting room or something like that. That's all that I got out of this. And then they would come to us after their meetings and present from their meetings, give us information and input and feedback. Okay, so on page 329. So it says, to get this idea off the ground, we are asking for a budget of $50 per delegate. Each district will pay according to their number of delegates. So they're looking for $50 from us, because there would be 1 delegate from the District of Sechelt. Okay, any other questions or comments? Councillor Kuster, back to you.
Okay, I'm not sure what kind of recommendation I'm going to move, just that we fund the 1 delegate for the youth council. And I don't know if we need any more input from staff or anything. I'm looking for some help with writing this this motion, maybe.
Okay, I don't know. CAO, corporate officer, anything else that we're looking for in here, do you think? Put you on the spot?
No, Your Worship, I think you covered it. I think basically just per their request. I think what Councillor Kuster has said covers it.
All right. So
You
that's
might
a
want to
motion.
add making
Yeah.
the space available.
I'm making the space available. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Councillor Kuster, are you okay? You want to add that in?
Okay, I can add and making space available for their meetings.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that recommendation? Lots of seconders. All right, all those in favor? Thank you. And then the final item on here that's also looking for action is the item from Ice-T. So this is in response to a grant program that Ice-T recently came out with, like within the last 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks, they came out with this program. It is a matching program. They will match actual dollars. They will not match in kind. Downtown Business Association is looking at using these funds, or applying to Ice-T, and they're coming to us for some funds. There's some other implications in here, things like they're looking for a place to store this patio thing if they do get the funds and do go ahead and build it. So I wanted to bring it forward just so that we could start this process. And I'd look to you for, I guess at this point, is it something that we want to consider supporting financially or not? If we do want to consider financial support, then we would need to look at what some of the implications of that are. Councillor Toth.
Yeah, I'd written a whole host of notes here, but I'd actually sent an email off to Teresa from the SDBA and got a response to some of my questions. So the one thing, they are looking for both a contribution from us, cash money, as well as possibly in-kind services. I didn't realize that the iced tea was cash matching only. So that $2,000 is an actual cash contribution from the District of Sechelt. I support the concept of this project. I think it's a good idea. It's a good plan. We've talked about allowing businesses to build out and do some patios and sidewalk occupancy. Do we have policy or legal implications with regards to them occupying the street over a longer term? Our street patios project is a pilot. It's intended to end. They're talking multi-year. What does this look like next year? What does this look like going forward? Permitting, insurance, things like that are basically my only concerns. And then one question I think for Mr. Curry, if he's around, is do we know how much money is in the Downtown Revitalization Reserve or Fund?
Mr. Councillor Toth, yes, I could just look it up if you want to keep chatting for a minute here. I'll have it for you in a few minutes.
Hey, Councillor McLean, and then Councillor Kuster.
Did Joanne want to jump in? Okay, I'll go. Yeah, I think this is a great idea. It's been in nebulous form since I think February. So it's good to see an actual proposal. But I think Councillor Toth has raised some good questions. I think we need to identify a funding source. So I'd rather not do that on the spot. Put the pressure on Ben. I'd like to see a staff report come back with some of those insurance responsibilities, the staff commitment, and the financial commitment. So I'll be making that motion eventually to refer this to staff, but let the discussion continue for now.
Okay, I'm going to throw one other one out and then we'll go back to Councillor Toth. I think we need to look at staff impact as well. What's the impact on our staff? And from, you know, are we going to be looking to have them haul it there, store it, all of those sorts of things? So what is our role in the maintenance and storage piece that's mentioned in here? So that would be something else we'd want to see. Councillor Toth?
Yeah, I think the reason this came up as a late item in the first place is purely the timeliness of the iced tea application. This program is, as funds run out, the program closes. Is that correct?
Yes.
So this, do we know how much money they're starting with in their program?
I do, but I don't recall.
Okay. Just order of magnitude, like $100,000, $1 million?
No, I don't. I can look it up as well and let you know. I think what we're looking at, we actually have a council meeting in next week. We're having a council meeting next week on the 24th. We're having a special council meeting. So we could potentially, you know, send this off to staff at this point and have them put some of this stuff together and bring it back next week. We're not looking at waiting, you know, into July, but it would give us some time for some of that.
Hopefully that's the motion Councillor McLean has written, and I will mute, but I'm happy to support it moving forward.
Okay, Mr. Curry, did you want to give us an answer to that question that Councillor Toth had? Okay, and you're muted.
Sorry about that.
That's it.
At the moment, we have 59,000 in the reserve.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Kuster, did you have a question?
Actually, someone answered it, so I'm good now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Scott.
Just curious when we're gonna see the draft proposal on this. Kind of I haven't seen anything on the proposal that's been put forward yet. We're talking about funding something.
I think if you go, I think what they're looking at is if you look at the last page, there's some pictures in there.
No,
I think that's what they're doing.
But even just the whole concept of
okay,
putting, staff is supposed to come back with a proposal for us on this whole project.
Our staff?
Wasn't that?
We haven't made a recommendation yet. There's no recommendation on the floor.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, over to you, Councillor McLean.
Where am I at?
Because I think you have a recommendation already.
I don't.
Okay.
I'm just simply that we refer the patio, the STBA patio project to staff.
Okay, and could we have it come back for the 24th? I know that's short turnaround. So that would be on our special council meeting for the 24th. Councillor Toth?
To consider staffing implications, funding source potential, insurance and regulation requirements.
Yes, that works. Jen, do you have all that?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. So we have a joint motion that's been crafted. Is there a seconder for the recommendation? Seconded. Any further comments? All those in favor? Thank you. Any emergency items from staff?
No, Your Worship.
Thank you. And I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Moved and seconded, all in favor?